The growing presence of microplastics in our environment has long been a cause for concern, primarily due to their detrimental impact on wildlife and ecosystems. However, recent research is raising alarming questions about their potential effects on human health, particularly in relation to heart disease and stroke. A new study suggests that these tiny plastic particles, often invisible to the naked eye, are not just lingering in our oceans and soil, but are also infiltrating our bodies. What's more, these particles appear to be accumulating in the arteries, especially in areas prone to plaque buildup, where they may be contributing to an increased risk of cardiovascular events like strokes and heart attacks. For decades, we have been aware of the environmental dangers posed by plastic waste, but the discovery that microplastics are making their way into our bloodstream, and more concerningly, into the fatty plaques in our arteries, marks a new and potentially terrifying chapter in the saga of plastic pollution. These micro and nanoplastics, which are fragments of plastic less than 5 millimeters in size, are pervasive in the environment. They are primarily created when larger plastic items degrade, breaking down into smaller pieces over time. They are so minuscule that they can be absorbed into the human body through food and water, making them virtually impossible to avoid. The implications of this recent study are deeply troubling. Researchers found that people with carotid artery plaque, the fatty deposits that can restrict blood flow and lead to strokes, were found to have significantly higher levels of micronanoplastics in their arteries compared to individuals with healthy arteries. This was especially true in patients who had suffered strokes or mini-strokes. In fact, the concentration of these particles in plaque was found to be more than 50 times higher in stroke patients than in those with healthy arteries, which suggests a disturbing potential link between these microplastics and serious vascular conditions. The alarming discovery here is that these tiny particles of plastic could be playing a role in the development of cardiovascular disease, particularly in the formation and progression of atherosclerotic plaques. Plaques in the arteries are already known to contribute to the narrowing and hardening of blood vessels, which can lead to dangerous cardiovascular events. The study suggests that the presence of microplastics in these plaques may further compromise the function of the blood vessels, increasing the likelihood of strokes and heart attacks. In essence, these plastics might be serving as a hidden contributor to one of the most serious health issues facing the world today. What makes this even more concerning is the ubiquitous nature of microplastics. They are not just present in the oceans or in wildlife, they are now part of the very air we breathe, the food we eat, and the water we drink. These particles are nearly impossible to escape, making it extremely difficult for people to avoid exposure. As plastics continue to break down in the environment, they enter the food chain and, ultimately, our bodies. It is now clear that microplastics are not just a matter of environmental contamination. They are a health hazard that could be silently affecting millions of people around the world. There are several reasons to be worried about the role of microplastics in human health. First, the plastic particles are small enough to penetrate cells and tissues within the body, including blood vessels. Once inside the body, they could potentially cause damage to cells, leading to inflammation and other harmful effects. The study found that these plastic particles were associated with altered gene activity in cells that help stabilize plaque, as well as with a reduction in anti-inflammatory responses. This suggests that microplastics may not just be an inert foreign substance in the body. They may actively contribute to the development of diseases like atherosclerosis, which could then lead to strokes or heart attacks. Another troubling aspect of the study is that it is still unclear exactly how microplastics are interacting with the body on a molecular level. While the research has shown that these particles are present in higher concentrations in individuals with cardiovascular issues, it is still unknown whether the plastics are directly causing these conditions, or if they are merely a symptom of other underlying health problems. Researchers have been cautious in interpreting their findings, acknowledging that more studies are needed to understand the precise biological mechanisms at play. However, the evidence thus far suggests that microplastics could be a previously overlooked risk factor for cardiovascular disease. Moreover, the methods used to measure microplastics in biological samples are not without their limitations. The researchers employed pyrolysis gas chromatography mass spectrometry, a technique that allows for the breakdown of plastic into smaller organic molecules. However, this method may also result in the breakdown of fatty acids found in plaque, potentially leading to false positives. While the researchers have worked to refine their techniques, this remains an issue that could affect the accuracy of the findings. Still, the results are compelling enough to warrant further investigation. The impact of microplastics on human health is a subject that will likely continue to generate significant concern as more studies are conducted. The presence of these particles in our bodies, especially in critical areas like our arteries, raises serious questions about the long-term health consequences of our growing exposure to plastic pollution. While the study focused on carotid artery plaque, the implications of these findings may extend to other areas of the cardiovascular system as well. There is also the broader issue of the environment's degradation and how it directly affects human health. If microplastics are truly contributing to cardiovascular disease, this represents not just a public health crisis, but a fundamental failure to address the environmental impacts of plastic waste. In many ways, the consequences of our reliance on plastic have now come full circle. We have polluted our oceans, our soil, and our air with plastic waste, and now we are seeing the fallout in the form of health risks that were previously unimaginable. The study highlights an uncomfortable truth. The very products we have used to make our lives easier and more convenient are now slowly poisoning us. Given these disturbing findings, it is crucial that we take immediate action to reduce plastic waste and minimize exposure to microplastics. While it may be difficult to completely eliminate microplastics from our environment, steps can be taken to limit our exposure. For individuals, this may mean reducing the consumption of processed foods and drinks that may contain microplastics and focusing on eating whole, unprocessed foods. For society at large, this means addressing the root cause of plastic pollution through better waste management practices and stronger regulations on plastic production. In conclusion, the potential link between microplastics and cardiovascular disease, especially stroke, is a significant and emerging health concern. While more research is needed to fully understand the implications of these findings, the study has shed light on the hidden dangers posed by plastic pollution. As microplastics continue to infiltrate our bodies and our environment, it is clear that we must take proactive steps to mitigate their impact on our health. Until we better understand the full scope of the problem, it is essential to remain vigilant and cautious, recognizing that the plastic crisis may be much more harmful than we ever imagined.